ICP staking rewards are not what you think. And I know everyone in crypto loves a good staking reward. You want to see that 10 or 20% hit your account year over year over year. But when you are getting something like staking rewards or airdrops or anything for free, realize nothing in crypto is free. You're paying for it somehow. So in the ICP ecosystem, I think long term, people are going to pay for the inflation created by staking rewards. But I want to talk about the short term of how this can actually be good for ICP holders and how the long term people might be affected unless they stake for 6, 7, 8+ years and earn a certain amount of inflation or a certain amount of staking rewards above the current inflation. Okay, so I currently calculate inflation being anywhere from like 10 to 15% a year. The only way you're going to outpace that is by being locked up in ICP for 6, 7, or 8 years, really locking your tokens and being committed to the chain. Short term though, I think ICP's tokenomics are they're very good for price short term. I think there's a lot of incentives for the ICP token to be used as the chain is used, right? You have to use ICP to pay for data storage, to pay for canisters, basically pay for dApps and web hosting and all these things. I think what ICP is trying to do also in the crypto space is novel. It's different, right? They're trying to eliminate Amazon Web Services, Microsoft, Google Cloud, all these things so that people can host websites, decentralized websites on the internet, right? In a new way. Kind of different than what we do in Web 2, where you go through like a WordPress or Google host your website or use AWS servers, right? They're trying to revolutionize this, and I think that's a great thing to try and do. I could totally see something like ICP being bought out by like an Ethereum foundation or a Cardano foundation being bought out and put on top of a structured financial layer one. So I think ICP is doing great things. I think short term, all these staking rewards are going to be great for price because over 47% of all ICP is currently staked. Almost half of all ICP being staked has to be good for tokenomics and price appreciation. And I think short term, more ICP is going to be staked than ICP is going to be created. So I think we'll have a good potential for ICP price to grow in this bull market that we are currently in. I don't currently hold ICP, and I'm going to tell you why here in a little bit. But short term, if you're invested in ICP, you have money in ICP, or you're staking and earning those voting rewards or maturity, which is basically can be more ICP. I think short term, your portfolio is going to look pretty great. My long-term problem with the ICP staking model is what I see with every chain that does staking, but also has inflation and deflation mechanisms, aka no cap supply. So the only chain that I've seen pull this off correctly so far is Ethereum, and whether that be because it's been in the crypto ecosystem for so long and all these other chains need time to get to that maturity level, or whether it's because it's hard to pull off and a lot of other chains won't be able to do it. The combination that ICP has of staking rewards, inflation, deflation mechanisms, and no cap supply is very hard to turn deflationary, which is very hard to get people returns or keep them on pace, which is kind of what crypto was intentionally made to be. If you want to deal with inflation, deflation, in my opinion, you go to the dollar, you go to the euro, you go to the JPY, right? All these things that we've been fighting for years, ICP has the potential to run into an inflation deflation struggle if network activity does not increase. So I have some numbers here. I calculated the inflation over the last couple years, and ICP started around May 11th, 2021. So we're almost at around May 11th again of 2024. So basically you could say it's been about 3 years. Now, I looked at the circulating supply and the total supply, and when you look at the circulating supply from back then, it was 395 million ICP. Now the current circulating supply is 462 million ICP. That is a 15% inflationary increase in the number of circulating supply of ICP over the last 3 years. So that's a 5% increase in ICP year over year for the past 3 years when you average it out. For the total supply of ICP, it started at 470 million in May of 2021, and today it's at 517 million. That is about, on average, a 10% year over year, or a 10% total inflation, which is about 3.5% inflation year over year. These numbers don't include the number of ICP that's held in maturity. That is currently about 80 million ICP, which is about 15% of the total supply of ICP. So if all of that maturity, which probably is not going to happen, it's not all going to be turned into ICP, but as the price of ICP goes up, people have more incentive to convert maturity, voting rewards, staking rewards to ICP. As they do that, that's 15% more ICP that can be converted, or 15% more tokens that can be converted to ICP to inflate the total uncirculating supply. Now, that 15%, if that had been added every year for over the 3 years divided out on average, instead of a 5% inflation, now we have a 10% inflation year over year. And instead of a 3% or a 3.5% inflation for the total supply, now we have about an 8% inflation. So these numbers start to get up really, really high when you have the maturity involved, you have the current supply, you have the total supply, the unlocking, the selling, all these things added together. You can start to see how we're averaging about a 10% inflation in ICP year over year. The biggest thing though, after all of that inflation and all the tokens that have been released in the circulating supply, after all of that, the biggest thing on top of that is ICP is slowly releasing voting rewards at about 7%. Eventually, they're slowly tapering down to 5% 8 years after launch. So we have 5 more years to get to that 5% per year voting rewards, and 5% will be released pretty much like forever. So as we create more ICP, the voting reward function is based on a percent. So if there's 100 million ICP released right now as the total supply, you're gonna get 5% of that released as voting rewards. If there's 1 billion ICP out, you're going to get 5% more out of that. So there's a scenario where we have staking rewards, we create more ICP, we get more staking rewards, and then we create more ICP in this infinite loop, because the staking rewards is, a percentage of total ICP. As ICP grows, the supply, the total supply, the circulating supply grows of ICP, we have a potential for a flywheel of creation of ICP to continue, much like what's happening in the fiat markets, in the dollar, right? We have more debt, and because we have more debt, the value of the dollar goes down, so we create more dollars on a year-over-year basis. The same method can happen here in the ICP ecosystem. I do recognize the power of burning ICP though. ICP is not only inflationary, it does have burning mechanisms. When you pay for basically transactions on the network, in your canister, you top up your ICP, and you burn that ICP to do transactions. The problem is right now, those burned transactions are really not doing much at all to the supply of ICP. So ICP really has got to pump up the volume on their chain if they want to start burning enough ICP to start to go deflationary. I'm not sure what the time horizon of when they would like to be deflationary is. I'm sure everyone says sooner is better, but I don't know if they're looking for to be deflationary in 8 years or in 5 more years, or what that timeline looks like. But right now, they currently have only ever burned, in the history of the chain over the past 3 years, they've only ever burned 165,000 ICP, which is 0.000319% of the total supply. To close this video out, I would say that I recognize all the great things ICP is doing. I recognize that much like Amazon in the beginning, like Google, like Microsoft, things are not going to be fully fledged out. I'm a big Cardano proponent. Things are not fully fledged out. Bitcoin is still not fully fledged out, right? People want to add more to it. It's slow. It's all this stuff. People are adding runes to it now. It's nothing is fully fledged out, and it's not going to be for a while. So you got to give credit to ICP where it is due and with what it's doing. I also recognize that these things take a long time to build and a long time to figure out. It's a newer chain. It's got a lot of things going on. It's got a novel idea, and they have a different approach. I appreciate different approaches in crypto. I appreciate different approaches in life. I appreciate different approaches in business. But I just want to point out the staking rewards for everyone invested in ICP or considering invested into it. When you have, and it's not just ICP, when you have all these chains that are inflation, deflation, a lot of staking rewards, and no cap supply, you have these potentials for these flywheels of inflation getting out of control. And if you are staking in ICP for less than the 5% or the 10% that's coming out every single year, depending on how you calculate it, right? It's a minimum of 5% inflation on ICP every year. So there's no reason of locking your ICP up and staking it unless you're getting that 5%. And you're not going to get that 5% unless you've staked for multiple years and locked that ICP. Now, for me, there's a lot of things I don't like about locking up your stake, especially when in crypto we are being our own bank. We have the potential to, lend and DeFi and do all these cool things and control our keys on our wallet and hold our coins in our wallet and have self-sovereignty. And when you have these things, locking tokens is just not always the best idea. If you lock for a couple years at this point right now in order to be inflation, you're not going to be able to unlock the tokens maybe at the right time. These market cycles have been consistent over the last 4 years. And so if you want to lock your stake up and earn those staking rewards and get more maturity, you really need to figure out when is the best time to lock ICP to have it become available to sell in a big bull market like we're having right now. I know multiple people want to hold their ICP for a very long time, 2 or 3 cycles down the line, but it is always a gamble to stick with one token for that long. And if at any point you want to reevaluate, or if at any point you want to change or find a new position, or if you have like a life crisis where you want to access the funds, you just simply don't have that opportunity. So just something I'm thinking about with staking rewards in general. I just want to share my opinion and what I think about staking rewards in these kinds of situations. Let me know in the comments if you staking your ICP, how long you're staking it, and what you thought about locking your stake, or if you think ICP is, the staking model is good, the tokenomics good. Let me know down in the comments, and I'd be happy to discuss further. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed the video, and we will see you in the next one.